giving talks on spiritual subjects from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He is also an authority for Vedic studies in Texas area. With that, Prabhuji, I'll not take too much of your time because we are running late. You will be enlightening us from 3.25 to 3.35.
Okay.
With that, you can take over the call. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, thank you very much, all of you. So once again, I apologize for my lateness. So today's verses, as Mataji was saying, we are doing from verse number 25 to 35. So in this particular chapter is Karma Yoga. I'm just looking at my book, Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So in this Karma Yoga, the chapter starts with Arjuna's confusion, to renounce or to act. And so then Krishna actually talks about what renunciation is and why sometimes people see it as difficult, and what prescribed duty is and what is detachment. Ultimately, at this point in text 25 onwards, what is happening is Krishna is going to discuss about one who's attached and one who's detached worker. That means he's comparing karma kandi versus a karma yogi. So that's the whole idea. And so what is this problem is because there is when you are ignorant about your duties and so on, then you tend to work with attachment. Okay, but when you are understanding your position in terms of why you're doing this duty, I'm a spirit soul. If I do this all these rules and regulations and duties properly, then you will act without attachment. And then also within this category, once you act without attachment, you become, one can say you come to a stage of becoming self-realized also. Why we need to do duties, why we need to do our work properly and so on. Ultimately, we also come to the point of understanding that we are doing all this to set the example also, so that others can also follow the right path. So the difference between the attached worker and detached worker is what we see in text 25 and so on, is that there's this concept of desire. One of them desire. What is this desire? Desire for the self and desire for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so if we look at the verses for this particular series, there's a theme, and as I mentioned before, the theme is difference in the consciousness. Okay, so ignorance means material consciousness once again, and one who knows why I'm doing it, he knows it is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is for Krishna consciousness purposes. So when we are looking at all that, then this differentiating factor comes in. There are many differentiating factors. One of them, as I've just mentioned, is desire. The other one is convictions. What is this conviction? One is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. Okay, I'm doing it for myself, I'm doing it my family and so on. I am actually the cause of my own future. I am the cause of my own happiness. I am the cause of my own distress, like that. But a devotee, he's thinking, he's convinced that he is in a difficult position or awkward position because of material association. So that's the difference between the conviction of an attached worker as opposed to one who is detached. Now, in terms of knowledge, the The person who is an attached person, he does not know that the body is produced by material nature. Okay. And he also doesn't understand that when this body which is produced by the material nature, it also works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate characharan. He cannot understand those concepts, cannot see that this material energy is under the supervision of the Lord. And then the attached worker also does not know that he himself is under the control of Krishna. Now, the symptom of this is that he is in ignorance. Why? Because he's taking credit. Oh, I did it. I'm the one who's doing it. As opposed to a devotee, he is convinced and he knows that I'm the spirit soul and part and parcel of Supreme Lord, who is eternal, who has eternal bliss and knowledge. And I'm also part and parcel, so I also have eternal bliss and knowledge. And so he continues to understand and progress, and he knows that somehow, because of his entanglement in this material energy, that he is trapped. Okay? An intelligent person, or you can say one who is a detached worker, as what Krishna is saying, he knows I'm trapped. Otherwise, you'll find that the person is thinking, I am not trapped, I'm doing this, I'm happy. It is because of some other reasons I am unhappy. Okay, so that's the difference between one who is attached and one who's detached. Okay. And then in the purport also, Srila Prabhupada talks about Tattvavid, one who knows the absolute truth. Tattvavid means he understands that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists in three features, right? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So he knows these things, and therefore then he understands his factual position and relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, in terms of engagement, the person who's attached, the attached worker, he does not use his body or even his mental activity in the service of Krishna. He does not. Rather, he forgets that the Supreme Lord is the master of everyone and master of all senses. So therefore, one who's attached worker, he does not engage his body properly. Whereas a devotee, and all of us who are practicing devotion, so we know we engage ourselves in the activities of Krishna consciousness, and therefore we naturally get unattached from the activities of the material senses. Rather, we use the senses to please Krishna. We use our body to serve Krishna, right? Whatever activities we do, we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. Even though sometimes we may think, oh, I like this, I like that. But still, even though, let's say you like some food, you like something very nice, maybe dokla or rasagulla or whatever. But still, you offer it to Krishna. Okay? Why we offer? Because we know this is the way, the process is to please Krishna first. Whereas one who is attached, he's thinking, oh, I work so hard, so I deserve this rasgulla or dokla like that. But a devotee is thinking, no, I have to offer first. But I like it, but I'll offer. So the consciousness is different. So we can see how we engage ourselves, even though we may not be a pure devotee. But because we are following Prabhupada, all of us, when we are sincerely following Prabhupada, we are on the path of pure devotional service, right? So don't forget, sometimes we are in difficulties. We seem to be attached, but we have to have faith also that we are pleasing Srila Prabhupada by offering little things we are offering to Krishna. Prabhupada is very happy, and Krishna is happy because Prabhupada is happy. Our Guru is happy because we are following the simple instructions. Yeah. So we try to engage as much as possible. Okay. And then the fifth consideration is that the consequences, right? The one who is attached, he doesn't understand Krishna is involved in all this situation. Therefore, his activity is forgetful of the Supreme Lord. As devotees, when we are doing even though we try to forget Krishna, we cannot forget, because we are always reminded by Krishna. So we know the consequences. Yeah. And therefore, mostly devotees who are steady, they are not disturbed by reactions in the world, right? If there's a war in some country, we feel sorry for those people, but we are not disturbed by such things, because we know this is what happens in the material world. And therefore, we consider all the reactions, right? We consider all the reactions that we see around the world, as well as reactions that we get, to be a mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is where Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the 10th canto, in the 14th chapter, Tatena kampam sumakshamana bunjana evatman kritam vipakam, right? The very famous verse where Lord Brahma prays to Krishna, saying that whatever difficulties that come to me, I accept it, because if I accept it, that this is a mercy coming to me for my previous foolish karma and so on, Krishna is giving me this mercy to go through these difficulties. So that's how the devotee is thinking, that the Lord is so merciful, and therefore I will do these activities in such fashion. Yeah. Now, how does the devotee relate to a person who is in ignorance? Because all these verses, they talk about how we should not disturb the ignorant people, right? So how does a devotee? He does it so that he does not agitate the minds of one who is a fruitive worker, right? Mostly, for example, many of you are devotees, but you have family members, and the family members are not interested in Krishna consciousness. So we should be very careful how we deal with them. They may believe in God, but they are also attached to the fruitive lifestyle. Work hard, offer something in charity, worship demigods, and they get some benefits out of that. So Krishna tells Arjuna that in such circumstances, and even Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport and so on, we should be very careful that even though they may be our relatives, we should not be very eager to turn them into devotees overnight. It's not the goal. So therefore, we shouldn't agitate their minds because they are fruitive in nature. Their minds are not purified. So whatever they see, they calculate. What is the benefit for me? How do I take advantage like that? So we should be very careful how we engage such people or how we relate to such people. So Prabhupada says such personalities who are very fruitive are people in ignorance. Generally, they are in ignorance. They may know some scripture, but they don't understand the scripture properly. Maybe they heard it from their grandparents or something, and then they think, oh, this is how it is done. So when they do some activities, and as devotees, we see them do those activities, we may say, oh, these are not good for you. We should be very careful. Krishna also says we should not prematurely go and tell them, stop working like this. So therefore, we should not tell them to give up their activities prematurely. Just like most of us, before we became convinced of Krishna Seva, we may have been working in a very situations where it is not favorable for Krishna. So we have to be also very careful. We ourselves, we have gone through such difficult situation. We should therefore feel empathy to people who are going through such situation. Therefore, we should reflect. I was like this previously. Now these people are like that. So I shouldn't judge them so harshly. Nor should I think I can fix their problem overnight, right? It's not like if you have a headache and I give you Tylenol and the headache goes away within a few hours. But these are things that are in the heart. The heart needs to be purified, because in the heart is where we make conviction. And so when we are very convinced of the fruitive nature of our lifestyles, it's very difficult to give up. And so Krishna says, when we know what our situation is, we should not immediately go out to try to encourage everyone to give up their work. Stop doing this, stop doing that. No, It's a gradual process, and the purification must set in, and then they will slowly give up that. Now, how do we induce them to accept our statements? We should encourage them by setting good example. Okay, how is that? So if let's say in your family everyone is meat eating, so then you can say, I want to I want to be a vegetarian. Of course, they will say, no, don't do this and so on. But you can show them, and then you set nice example. You can cook for them. You can make nice samosas. You can make paneer sabji. And then they will try and they say, oh, this is so nice. It tastes good like that. So then they won't have difficulties in also wanting to follow what you are doing. Then they can see you are worshipping Krishna. Then they see you're going to temple. Then they also see that you are reading Srila Prabhupada's books and all this. And when you speak for their welfare. You speak kindly towards them. You encourage their activities that are favorable for devotional service. So when we have such a consciousness with the mood of helping someone, but not with the mood of putting them down, then people appreciate us. Generally, there's a tendency to criticize people for what they are doing. You will find that in ISKCON it's like that. Someone who knows the philosophy, immediately they are criticizing everyone left, right, and center. And then they feel hurt and so on. So we shouldn't be like that. Rather, we should engage them in activities that gradually brings them to Krishna consciousness. And that's very important. Now, of course, even if they are doing, for example, karma kanda activities, which is what Krishna is talking, that is also okay, because all Vedic rituals ultimately will bring you to Krishna consciousness. That's the whole idea, right? But sometimes because we are so enthusiastic, we want them to immediately come to the standard. But we should be patient, again, the way to practice patience is setting examples, good examples, so they can see, oh, these people are actually doing very nicely also. And as conditioned souls, you cannot really study the Vedas in the present situation in the world, and in terms of understanding Vedic scripture, not many people can really read the Sanskrit and come to a proper conclusion. So therefore, we set good example by reading Srila Prabhupada's books and then following what Prabhupada is saying. The reason why I emphasize this point of following nicely is because some of you may have children. If the parents do not set good example for the children, then the children will judge the parents. All right? Mostly the parents will tell the children, you don't do this, and then they do it, And then the child is thinking, okay, I wait until I get 18 years old, then I'll do these things, And we have seen many cases like that. The children will keep quiet, they follow the parents. And once they become 18 years old, they say, I will do it. And they start arguing and they have disbeliefs in the whole system. So how do you even help them? By being patient with them also. Don't force them, but show them that this is giving you satisfaction, giving you happiness also. When we do it and when we set a good example, immediately the difficulties in the mind, the challenges of the mind are elevated for others who are looking at us. We are always under the eyes of other people because they are judging us. So we should be very careful. We think, oh, I'm devotee now, Krishna is okay with me, I'm initiated, everything is okay. But actually, that's not the thing. Okay. And then in the and in the 29th verse also, Krishna is saying how Manda, he uses the word Manda. What are Manda? Manda means one who's very lazy person. In what sense? Too much attached to bodily consciousness without understanding the nature of the spirit soul. And what do? They are always connecting within their society, within the nation. It is a bodily connections. So within the family, it's kinsmen. Within the country, is the land of birth. Just sometimes you see in the Olympics and so on, they will shout, right, USA, USA. Like like they are all the country. So much attachment, and so they worship. Oh, I am from America, so they worship America like that. So these are the nature of one who is a manda, a lazy person who's attached to the body. And generally, even if they engage in some activities, it is social work or nationalism or altruism, as Prabhupada mentions in the purports like that. So devotees should be very kind. The Lord is watching, and He may not extend more mercy than He can give. If the person is not interested, the Lord will not go all out to pull them back. So the devotee must become merciful. So therefore, it is said that devotees are more kind than the Lord. We should also understand sometimes, and not sometimes, nowadays is quite common. People think, for example, as Hare Krishnas, we read the Bhagavatam, they will think that the Bhagavata Katha is full of mythology and so on. So what does it mean? They look at us and say, your spiritual realization is all just a myth. It's a made up thing. Just, there's a saying, right? Religion is like the opium for the masses, so therefore the Supreme Lord, He is recommending that we should be very intelligent in such a way that our activities, even though we are based all on the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita as such, we should make sure that we still do not agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to pursue our spiritual life in a happy way, and that they can watch and become very satisfied with what we are doing. But because actually Krishna wants all of us to go back to Godhead, right? So that's Krishna's true desire. How do we know that? Because He came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then He told everyone, Yare Deka Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh, right? Krishna Himself is telling us in the mood of Radharani. So actually, Krishna wants all of us to go back to Godhead. So therefore, as practicing devotees in this Guru Parampara, it is our duty to preach. But how to preach is an art. We should preach in such a way that we do not agitate other people, but rather they should feel happy looking at us. So we can engage them. We can invite them to the temple for festivals, and we can engage them. Hey, come help us put up this decoration, come for cutting vegetables, and so on. In such a way, they will not be agitated. And so on. Or we can engage them in moral activities, or we can engage them in non-violence activity, or something that they will feel that is benevolent. So we can encourage them in that way. So therefore, as devotees, we do take risks to try to attract all these people, but at the same time, we should be very careful. Yeah. Now in text 30, Krishna encourages Arjuna. He says, do your duty depending on me. And so within that purport, Srila Prabhupada talks how that what Krishna wants is, he says, offering all your activities, Mai Sarvani Karmani. So he says, offering of all your activities onto me. Now, how do you do that? With full knowledge. He says, Sanyasyadhyatma Chetasa, with full knowledge and dependence on me. And so we should do it in such a way that we know we are doing it for Krishna, and that Krishna will be pleased. So it's dependence of Krishna. And the second point is, when we do it, we should do it without desires for a profit. Right? Fruitive means I need something. Okay, Krishna, I prayed to you. What is it that you are going to give to me? Because I'm praying, you should give me something. Right? There is this concept. Many people think like that, but we shouldn't. So there's no desire for fruitive profit. And then the other thing is we should not claim proprietorship. Nirmamo bhutva. So that means without a sense of proprietorship. And then Yudhyashva Vigata Jwara, free from lethargy, become active in doing service. So when we do service, naturally we'll become active. And so in this case for Arjuna, he says Yudhyashva. That means you can fight, you know. If you're doing it as a service, then you will have the ability to fight very nicely. So Prabhupada says this particular verse, which talks about offering everything to Krishna without personal desires or sense of proprietorship, with full knowledge and dependence on Krishna, Prabhupada says it is actually the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. This particular verse emphasizes that the whole idea of Bhagavad Gita is to serve Sri Krishna. Okay, so that is how we should be. And we should practice in such a way that we are disciplined, you know, a daily sadhana bhakti, and then we can connect with Krishna according to the principles that are recommended by in the Shastra and enunciated by our acharyas, especially Srila Prabhupada. So the mood is very fixed. When we are regulated, then we are doing it daily. We are trying to please Krishna according to the way he wants it. And so when we are regulated, it is difficult actually for some, right? Many of us find it very difficult to get up in the morning at Mangalati, 3:30 or 4 o'clock. It's so difficult. The body is rebelling, the mind is rebelling. But the duties, we are doing it when we are dependent on Krishna, then it becomes pleasurable. Because we know I am doing it for Krishna. Obviously, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult because the mind will rebel. We are not used to it. We are habituated for so many lifetimes not surrendering to Krishna. But in this particular system that Srila Prabhupada has given, the difficulties of surrendering becomes easier as we become more and more regulated. It's a very simple process, actually. Most people think you have to do amazing things, then only you get to go back to Godhead. Yeah, that is true also. But Srila Prabhupada is so kind that he has given us this system for regulative principles. Wake up in the morning, do all the morning programs, chant 16 rounds, and then with whatever ability you have, just preach a little bit here and there. And sincerely, if you do it, you are guaranteed of going back to Godhead. Because that is our constitutional position, to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. Eternally, we are the servants of Krishna. And what pleases Krishna and the acharyas is to bring everyone back to Godhead. We cannot be happy otherwise. There's no form of happiness. You all of you are working, many of you are working individuals, you know, right? You can get some pleasure out of work, you know, but then it is not sustainable. It's not a long-term happiness. I have met people who have retired, and then what are they thinking about? They're thinking about going back to work. So that means they are not happy. They are retired and they are not happy. So you can see it's a fallacy, you know, thinking that, oh, I'll retire and I'll be happy. I'll get all the money, but they're not happy. Yeah, but you find devotees actually very happy, you know. They want to go to they are so excited. Every Kartik, they're like, oh, I'm going to India, I'm going Kartik, going to Vrindavan. So excited, you know, Damodar Mas, I can offer ghee lamb, simple ghee lamb, and they are so excited, right? And you look at all this CEO and so on, they are trying to earn millions and millions and they are not even happy, you know. It's a fascinating way if you look at the whole idea, but this is the whole problem in this society. Yeah? The people don't understand how to actually be truly happy. Okay. All right, so what is the path of liberation recommended in conclusion? According to Varnashram, everyone should act according to one's quality and position. We should act according to. Now, most of us will say, what is my varna? What is my Kalo Shudra Sambhave? So that's it. Don't worry about it. And if you know what your duty is to follow what your guru has told you to do. Very simple, right? Chant 16 rounds. Very simple. Follow 4 regulatory principles. Get up in the morning, do archana, seva, and then go to the temple whenever you have time, or on the weekends you go. Engage yourself in service during festival times. Bring people to the temple. Give them Srila Prabhupada's books. So when you do that, automatically you'll act according to your true quality as a Jivatma. And then you will be acting in the proper consciousness. Okay. Then in text 31, Sri Krishna is saying the result of acting according to his injunctions. How to follow is discussed in verse 30, with faith and without envy. And what is the result? The result is freedom from all bondage. Okay. The result of following his teachings is that those who execute their duties according to Krishna's injunctions, right, faithfully, therefore he says, Shraddhavanto, faithfully. You have to do it in faith. And without envy, Anusuyanto, without envy. So when we do that, we become free from any bondage, from fruitive activities. So that this is very nicely, Krishna's kindness is exposed very nicely here. And then we will appreciate Krishna consciousness, and it is an eternal process. Now, at the same time, we are all devotees, and we are all devotees of Srila Prabhupada also. We are all Prabhupada Nuga, right? Anugas. So therefore, what to do? We should study the Bhagavad Gita, the Srila Prabhupada has written, the Srimad Bhagavatam also. Because there are many Bhagavad Gitas in this world, and they're written by all kinds of crazy people. It's written by philosophers also, but generally all these people write commentaries based on their own defective senses. And therefore their commentaries have no connection with Krishna. They write commentaries with no faith in Krishna. So one who reads such commentaries, their destination will be only bondage, right? People read and they will think, oh, I just have to continue my life and work hard and do all the nonsense and I'll get the money. That's it. Therefore, Krishna says we shouldn't do that. And Prabhupada mentions that we should do it for Krishna. So as devotees, we should know Prabhupada's book so that when people talk something that is not in Prabhupada's book, we can help them understand better what Krishna is saying. Only a devotee of Krishna can tell you what Krishna is saying. How can scholars who don't even practice the philosophy tell us what to do? Right? So we should be very, very careful when we meet people who are reading all kinds of discussed knowledge or scriptural translations that are not coming in Guru Parampara. So that's very important. The other thing is we should have firm faith in Srila Prabhupada's instructions. It's very important. If you have no faith in Prabhupada's instruction, we cannot have faith in Krishna's statements. Okay, so we have to have faith. How to get the faith? Read his books. Look at his purports. There's so much revelation for us. And then we can be promoted to practicing pure Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Prabhupada is pure. So therefore, his instructions and his guidance will only take us to purity. Of course, in the beginning, when you are helping people and guiding people, one may not have such a full faith, and they may not be able to discharge the instructions given by Krishna. So we will have to hold their hands, right? You hold their hands to lead them, guide them, but we shouldn't judge them so harshly also. When they can't do, it's okay. You can tell them, no problem, just do what you can for now. And slowly, as they get purified, even though they're doing a little activity, they get purified. Saupamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. So they can do a little devotional service, it's going to protect them. So therefore, it's very important. Okay, so then we go on to text 32. If you're not in Krishna conscious, what happens? This is what Krishna is saying. Out of envy, abhyasuyantaha. So out of envy, there are many people, when they see even Hare Krishna devotees, they don't like it. They are saying, oh, my family also did it, so these guys are doing, right? So they, out of envy, they will not want to follow also. And what happens to such unfortunate people? They become bereft of true knowledge. Maya parita jnana, right? Many of you know this. In the 7th chapter, Krishna explains how when one who, even though they study the scripture and so on, but because they do not want to accept the position of Krishna, the material energy covers them. Aura anadmika shakti will come and bewilders him. So Maya parita jnana takes away their good intelligence, and therefore whatever they try to perfect, even if they want to do perfection, they fail. So this is the whole topic that is discussed in text 32. And then, of course, Krishna then talks about how, even though we can see such unfortunate things are going on, we should not force people to give up their conditional nature. We should not force people who have material desires to give up material desires. Because even a man of knowledge sometimes acts according to his own nature, right? The reason Krishna is saying like this is because Arjuna wants to quit, right? He wants to quit the battlefield, and where he wants to go? He wants to go to the forest and do tapasya. So he may be able to sit in the forest and do tapasya, but then if some Brahmins who sages are fighting, because he's Kshatriya, he'll get up to fight also. He wants to fix the problem. So therefore, Krishna says, even a man of knowledge, even you, Arjuna, you may know something, but you will act according to your nature. So because why? Everyone will follow their nature. We all have our nature, according to the 3 modes. Sometimes we are sometimes we have more goodness, sometimes some of us have more passionate nature, and some of us have more ignorant nature. But when we are in Krishna consciousness, these natures will not act on us so much. Rather, Krishna is so kind, he will make sure the natures don't disturb our Krishna consciousness. Therefore, what does it mean? It means we have a particular nature. We cannot artificially repress the nature. Okay, that's not the way to do it. How do you control your nature? Devotional service. How do we know it works? Because Prabhupada has given this process. And how do we know it's successful? All his disciples who took it up have become so successful in their Krishna consciousness. And they are going around and preaching. Even though they came from different backgrounds. Prabhupada says, I took the hippies and made them happies. So from that we can understand, what were the hippies doing? They were doing, just giving up everything, taking drugs, and they were thinking they'll be enjoying life like that. But Prabhupada helped them, and then they realized, why did they even give up that lifestyle? Because what Prabhupada told them, they realized simply following that this is the best thing that ever happened to them. And so for simply seeing such examples, we should take great faith and say, this works, this process works. A lot of people go to big schools and education, but they cannot even help a common man, right? You take all the CEOs and so on, they go to Ivy League colleges and so on, but then they cannot see that the poor people are suffering. They have no heart anymore, right? You go to all these major colleges to give away your heart, and you become such a terrible person. In the Shastra, it says, if you have a lot of wealth, you should share with others. But in modern society, they become so greedy that they don't know what to do with the money, so they die with the money. Eventually, if you all study history, the Egyptian pharaohs and so on, right? when they die, they put all their wealth in the tomb and die. They're thinking they'll take it in the next life. What a nonsense. So this is what's happening in society, all these CEOs and so on. They put a big bank balance. They're thinking they'll take them with them when they die. So this is all nonsense. So we shouldn't allow such things to bother us, but we should follow what Prabhupada has given, and we should try to help people who are unfortunate. And how do we help them? By gradually getting them involved with some bhakti process. If they have some inclination, we can say, why don't you come and do this? Sometimes some people just like to sing, right? They like to go to their own temple and sing. We can say, come and sing with us for kirtan. So they will enjoy that. Yeah. So it's very important to know that for all of us, we may have some attachments, and then we may have some aversion also. So just like Arjuna's attachment was what? His family members. So because he was attached to his family, he was averse to fighting. And that was his duty. So similarly, we also have to identify what are our attachments and what are our aversion, and how it's related to our senses and sense objects. And then once you identify that, you can then practice to move away from senses and the sense objects. Yeah? Otherwise, an intelligent person who understands that all these things are affecting my ability in understanding Krishna, so we will able to navigate properly. Okay. And then how to get out of it is explained in text 34 by Krishna. So one of the things that is Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport is one should not have unrestricted sense enjoyment. So you can see the present society, everywhere you turn around, they recommend enjoy your senses, right? All the billboards, you drive in the highway, billboard is smoking, all the 4 regulatory principles to break, they put in the billboard as you drive. It's amazing. But these are the things that encages, keeps us in this material world. So therefore, Krishna says one has to be controlling one's senses. So it's very important for us to appreciate this thing. There are principles to regulate our attachment. Attachment is raga, but we need to practice. And then we can gradually come out of these things. Now, of course, like for example, if you look at the billboards, they push sex so much. But Krishna consciousness way of looking at sex is you get married and then you have child. That's it. That's your sex life. Whereas the billboard magazine and everything they are saying is you have sex every day and you'll be okay. But that is not true. People are still very unhappy. People are getting divorced every few hours. There's a divorce going around the world. Because why? They are not following anything and they cannot see that they are actually happy. You will find people who are regulated, they are much more peaceful than people who are unregulated. You take the Jews, for example. Why are they successful? Because they have a regulation in their lifestyle also. You look at the Mormons. Why are they so successful? Because they are also regulated. That means they have some mode of goodness. Whenever you have mode of goodness, then you are able to view things in a proper perspective and not get disturbed. So therefore, we should be very careful. Now, even if we are following nicely, Prabhupada writes, there is the possibility, or he says there's always a chance of accident, even on the royal road. Okay, so we should be very careful. Because why? We have a material body. The material body is affected by the 3 modes at all times. And therefore, sometimes the body and the modes will confuse us if we are not pure, and then we'll make some mistakes. But that's okay, because we should always pray to Krishna that I am very fallible. I can fall anytime. But Lord, you are Achyuta, you are infallible. You have affection for your devotees. So you please kindly make sure I do not fall down. Please make sure that I do not become a victim of my senses. Okay. Now, the best form of attachment for all of us is Krishna consciousness. So if you attach to Krishna, then it will give, then you will automatically vairagya will take place. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Janati Ashu Vairagyam. So knowledge will come, Vairagyam will come automatically. Jnanam Chayat Ahai Tukam. So devotional service, if you understand why Krishna is telling all this to Arjuna, then you can appreciate, wow, if I do this, automatically I can find in my life that I have lost taste for material things. That's the detachment process. And then you feel very happy that how kind Krishna is. He's allowing me to become detached from these material things. Therefore, we should try to love Krishna, pray to Krishna for this ability to become detached also. Okay. So what is the detachment that we should avoid? To be detached from Krishna consciousness. Okay, we should always have the attachment for Krishna. Of course, this is Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vishmartavya Najatusi. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So if anything makes you forget Krishna, then give it up. That should not be the case. Okay, we have to be situated in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, and ultimately and finally, the last verse is Krishna says to Arjuna is Shreyan Swadharma Viguna Paradharmatsu Anustita Swadharme Nidanam Shreya Parodharma Bhayavahaha. It is far better to perform one's own duties even in a faulty way. So this is the problem in society nowadays. Even in a faulty way, than doing another's duties perfectly. Even death in the course of doing one's duty is beneficial, but to follow another's path is dangerous. Of course, material duties are as per one's psychological condition, psychophysical condition. We are doing it according to our psychophysical conditions under the three modes. So, according to what Srila Prabhupada is saying is, spiritual duties are ordered by the Guru for the Lord's service. They may be different, but the authorized direction is always good for the performer rather than whimsically adopting some other's duty. So Arjuna is trying to become a Brahmin when he's a Kshatriya, and that will only going to cause chaos. So similarly, we have particular nature, and according to a group of devotees who know us very well, they can tell us, you focus on this area, you're good at this, or you focus on that, you do that service like that. And so when we do it according to a higher authority, we are protected. But when we do whimsically thinking, oh, I can do this thing, I can do that, then you're not protected. And then, therefore, it'll cause problems, which is why Krishna says it is very dangerous to give up one's own duty and trying to follow someone else's duty. If you do your own duty, you can transcend it eventually, according to Krishna. Right? Because here, the Kshatriya, he has to create violence. That's his duty. So a Brahmana is always non-violent. So Arjuna is trying to change from Kshatriya to Brahmana. Of course, there are examples like Vishwamitra and Parasuram, but Arjuna is not on that level. Okay, exception to the rule is not the rule. So please understand that. Okay. So with that, I will finish my discussion. Once again, I apologize for my lateness, but otherwise, I hope I have given you all enough points and ideas to think about. Yeah, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nice explanation. You have really opened up our eyes, giving instructions on all these verses. Some of them are so heart-touching that we need to imbibe those things, stay away, especially, to remain pure is difficult. You explain very well that. But if we become Krishna conscious, if we always have a Krishna in our mind, then he will help us in our endeavor. So very nice, Prabhuji, that you are enlightening us, giving your valuable time. And I will request now to take some questions from the listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes, Neelam, Nimai Sundari, is it?
Yes, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to you. It was a wonderful lecture. I just want a little more clarification. Maybe in this part of the second chapter, you were using the word detached person as versus attached person. Would it be wrong if I substitute the sthita prajna situation as the verses of materially or worldly person? Would it be okay?
You want to substitute with who?
Okay, the detached person is almost like a sthita prajna. He's established.
Oh, yes and no. Yes, a sthita prajna person is detached, but a sthita prajna person is actually at a higher level than one who is just a detached person.
True. That's
what
right.
you need to understand here.
Yes, I do. But somehow, since recently I am focusing on that portion from whatever. So when you said every time, I felt that can be okay. So I just wanted a confirmation.
Yeah. Because what you need to understand is a detached person may not necessarily be a sthita prajna.
True.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Much higher level.
Yes.
This is, yes. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
And your devotees, you raise your hand if any one of you have any questions for Prabhuji regarding today's session.
I guess they're all enlightened already. That's okay.
Hopefully, they understood everything.
Well, yeah, everything takes practice, actually, you know. Even though sometimes we may understand what Prabhupada is saying and so on. Yeah. Yes, Bhasha Narani. You have to unmute.
Yes. Yes, it's on me. Yes, Prabhuji, these two words like 31 and 32 is like one is said we have to follow everything faithfully without envy. So then we become free from the bondage of fruitive action. And to say the envious person, person out of envy, who out of envy. These two opposite words, you know, one is without envy and one is with envy.
Yes.
So that it become like they consider the bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavor for perfection. Prabhuji, these two things, can you a little bit explain again?
With faith and without envy?
31 and 32, one says is we are become without envy and one is with the envy. So this...
the whole idea is, you know, okay, let me just get to the verse in the, So out of envy is abhyasu yantaha. That means they don't want to follow Krishna. Okay, they're not interested. They are envious of Krishna, so they don't want to follow, and so they are against Krishna's teaching. The other ones that in 31 is anasu yanto. That means they are without envy. Okay, that means they are favorable to Krishna. So that's the difference. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Ila. Who is Ila's for iPhone?
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
You said that whatever isn't favorable for Krishna consciousness. Anything that's not, you detach yourself from that. How does it work with people? If a person is in the way of Krishna consciousness, then how do we take care of that?
Yeah, that is with great difficulty. Yeah. So, so you can't, as I mentioned previously, there are people in the beginning, they may not be favorable, but if they know you, and by your behavior, you can make them favorable. Meaning, you practice Krishna consciousness in such a manner that they become very happy with you. And so they may want to know more about it, they may question you, and they may eventually take the process because you are doing it.
Okay.
Right?
That is, yes, you're right. It is difficult though. I think to some extent I have tried to do that,
Yeah.
and it hasn't worked so far, but I hope you're right.
Yeah. The other
Thank
thing you can do is also you give them prasadam.
I do.
Yeah. So that it may take
That,
a long time. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because some people, the heart in some people is very hard to break it down. Some people's heart are much softer. So maybe, sometimes you encounter a hard case, it may take a little longer. Just like when you wash clothing, some clothes are very difficult to clean with one wash. You may have to do 3 or 4 cycle in the washing machine. So maybe that's how it is.
You are right, for sure. We have so many examples of also relating to Krishna consciousness, and some of them really you'll be very surprised. They really do make sense. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Prabhu.
No
I will
problem.
definitely try. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Arjun Mitra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. You have explained very nicely regarding the detached person or detached personality or attached personality. But my question is how to remain detached while performing our duties in our society, in our business, or in our job in this materialistic world.
Yeah, we all want an ideal situation, So we want to attain a very high level of Krishna consciousness, but we also want to have the material comforts. So what happens is it is not like because I want to be detached and I want to be attached to Krishna. Ultimately, it's incompatible to have material things in one hand and Krishna consciousness in
So
another.
we are just like a trisamku.
Yeah, you're trying to say I want both. So how to get to the stage is in the beginning it's a balancing act. You'll find sometimes you're too Krishna conscious and then you neglect your family, and sometimes you go back to take care of the family and you neglect Krishna consciousness. So the idea is you have to strike a balance that doesn't disturb you, both sides doesn't disturb you. And what you realize is your focus on Krishna is very peaceful and it is progressing and it is increasing. You can see that as you practice, right?
Yeah.
So when you see that's increasing, what happens in due course of time is that you will lose attachment for material things more and more, but not immediately, but you will see your family in the beginning, let's say they will say, let's go, Arjun, let's go for a movie. You say, okay. But after a year of practicing Krishna consciousness, they say, let's go to movie. You say, actually, I'm not interested. You are genuinely, you tell them you're not interested. So that's how Vairagya comes in. And that's how you become detached slowly. Yeah.
That's what actually happening with me.
Aha, excellent.
but it is very, while performing our duty in our job or in our business, it becomes sometimes very difficult to cope up with the I mean, situation, because
Yes.
we are in the state of Krishna consciousness, and we have to handle the situation in another way. So
No.
that
No. Okay. That's not how you should see. Don't divide. The way you should see is that the job is given to you by Krishna.
Krishna, absolutely.
Okay, and then you're working in an environment where you need to behave according to that situation there, and you're doing it on behalf of Krishna. So if you have to fire
So
somebody,
yes,
yeah, you have to
yes,
fire them.
yes.
And then you
That's
pray
what
to Krishna.
that's what something pinching to me. So how I can fire somebody, or how can I scold somebody when I'm doing this much? I mean,
Yeah, you can
I am,
pray for them. You can
yeah,
pray.
right.
Yeah. And you can say, Krishna, I have to do this firing, but I wish this person well. You please help them out, and you fire them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Arjun. Yeah. Ritu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a wonderful section today. There were a lot of, verses which actually is related to our day-to-day life, how to deal with, nonsense behavior around you. So my question is like, how to be ignorant if someone questioned your bhakti and fasting, and at that moment, how can you play with patience, with that person? And there are chances where they will provoke you for to argue with them, but you try to avoid that situation. But there are circumstances where you can actually leave that conversation.
It is true. There are situations when sometimes you cannot avoid confrontation. But at all times in Krishna consciousness, one of the things we are supposed to practice is tolerance. And it's a challenge. Even Lord Brahma in the beginning of creation, he had to tolerate so much, and he had to do tapasya. So in the same way, you will be tested to see how much faith you have in the process, in Srila Prabhupada, in your spiritual masters, and so on. So yeah, you're going to have difficulties, but at all times pray. Pray in such a way that you want to become strong in your process, and then the other person understands that this is something you have very dear in your heart, and you want to do it. And so in a sense that they will respect you for what you're doing instead of challenging you and questioning you. Yeah, this is what I can. Yeah.
One thing I have noticed in myself, that in this situation, actually, I feel guilty later on that I was arguing with that person. And I remember calling that person and asking for forgiveness because I was not feeling happy. That
Yeah.
why did I argue at that situation?
Exactly.
I should have actually tried some other way around, not to argue with them, try to find out solutions. But I have seen myself, I think this is bhakti or the effect of bhakti, that I was feeling so guilty.
Yeah, I think when we are new to bhakti, as I mentioned very much earlier, we have a tendency to convert everyone to Krishna consciousness, and that's a fruitive mentality actually. Yeah. So you are looking for results, and you try to fix everyone who comes within your purview. So you're thinking, I can fix this person, but actually sometimes you don't have to fix. You just do your own bhakti, and others will become enlivened seeing you being happy in your own process. And that is very attractive. And I think that's how devotees should be. We are not here to fix everybody. No, we are here to offer an alternative way of approaching life itself. Not everyone is going to go back to Godhead in one lifetime, but by seeing the processes we do, how much others become enlivened in their own lifestyle also. So that's something we should very carefully consider whenever we talk about our practices.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. On behalf of Partsarthi Foundation, I would like to thank you for giving your valuable time to us and sharing all the wisdom with us today. very, very beautiful session. And we hope that you keep coming and enlightening us. With that, I would like to request or ask your permission if we can close the call for today.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Aradhana, Hari Lila Prabhu, for inviting me.
Thank you again, Prabhuji, so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Tarubhyascha kripa sindhu.
Vasanthu Vacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namo.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
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 Praise Radha Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you very, very much, Prabhuji, once again.
Ki
Dandavats.
jai.
Hare Krishna.